Hey yo, what's good though? Soul here, and welcome back to my story mode. So if it wasn't obvious from the title or the thumbnail, obviously today we're going to be talking a little bit more about the possibilities to come from Pokemon Legends ZA. At this current point in time, we have absolutely no information regarding anything when it comes to Pokemon Legends ZA. No gameplay, no story, nothing. We don't know a single thing about it other than the fact that it takes place in Lumiose City and that it's a Legends game. So anything that we talk about for the next upcoming year is going to be completely based on rumor and speculation. Because the primary topic of discussion for the next year is most likely going to be Pokemon Legends ZA, I thought it would be appropriate to revisit the one other Legends game that we have. At first, it was only for footage purposes that I was replaying Pokemon Legends Arceus. However, in doing so, I remembered that there's a lot of things from this game that I really want to happen in the next Legends game. However, I've also noticed that there's a lot of things I really don't want to happen in the next Legends game, or at the very least, need some serious tune-ups or changes. Hence my very dramatic title and thumbnail. So, why don't you go ahead, strap in, grab your Coke, grab your milk, grab your cookies, grab your Sprite, put them all into one ginormous, disgusting cup, and why don't we go ahead and talk about some of my possible fears going into Pokemon Legends ZA. And again, take anything that I say here with a grain of salt because I am strictly basing this off of my experience with Pokemon Legends Arceus. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's chit-chat about this. So if you've been following me for a while, you probably already have an idea of what my first and biggest fear is, and that is the real possibility of a lacking story. A while back, when I put out my review of Pokemon Legends Arceus, one of the biggest downfalls of that game for me was the fact that the story pretty much went nowhere. There was kind of a story, but to me personally, it just didn't do anything. And it was so upsetting to me because Hisui as a region had so much potential. We could have potentially learned so many different things about how the region came to be, how these characters ended up where they were, what happened to Darkrai and Shaman and Heatran and all of them. Not to mention the fact that we could have potentially also gotten some real interesting lore on Giratina. Hell, I was really excited to see what they were going to do with Arceus, considering the fact that its name is literally the title. They also had all of these incredible character designs with Adaman and Irida and Arezu and Mai and all of these unique characters, and I was sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, what are they going to do with all of these characters? In the trailers, they showed us the Diamond Clan and the Pearl Clan, two completely separate factions with different religious beliefs on what was happening with, at the time, Sinnoh. They made it seem like the Galaxy team, the team that your character joins, is the only thing keeping these two factions from going to war. All of this potential, all of this buildup, all of this hype, for them to do absolutely nothing with any of it. The quote-unquote tension between the leaders of the Diamond Clan and the Pearl Clan can pretty much be summed up to the equivalent of an old married couple. They just annoy each other a little bit. That's pretty much as far as that storyline goes. On top of that, only them and their wardens are kind of Pokemon trainers. Each of them only have like one partner Pokemon each, and that is it. They don't even have real bases in the game. They have one base each in random zones in the game. We don't even get to see their actual home turf at all. So, to me, the equivalent of their story pretty much boils down to two cult leaders complaining to this old man who just so happens to be trying to run a town that the random Pokemon that they've been praying to have been losing their minds for absolutely no explained reason. If there was a reason, I don't know what it is. It was obviously very throwaway because I did not see a reason at all as to why these specific Pokemon were targeted and decided to lose their minds. And then, like I said earlier, Arceus has absolutely no place in this story whatsoever. It brings you to the past, says fix this, and then leaves. Just doesn't say a thing until the very end of the game when you get every single Pokemon and then battle it and then catch it, and now you're just stuck in the past. Okay, cool, great. What was that for? Okay, I'm gonna stop rambling and get back on topic, but you see where I'm coming from, right? It felt like Pokemon Legends didn't really have that much of a fleshed out story because it was kind of a throwaway story. It's a story about the past. All of this stuff pretty much happened already. It doesn't really matter what happened all that much, because whatever happened doesn't really lead to anything all that significant in the future. This is the type of mindset that I have to imagine the developers went into when developing Pokemon Legends Arceus, because there was no plot to really talk about. The only character and the only storyline that was somewhat kind of done any justice was Volo's. That was the craziest twist I have ever seen. Either way, my fear for this stems right into Pokemon Legends ZA because I don't want it to have the exact same problem. With it having the Pokemon Legends subtitle, it means that it's most likely going to take place in the past, ergo, it's a legend. Right now, the only thing that we know is that we're most likely going to be developing or redeveloping Lumio City, one of the biggest known cities in the Pokemon franchise. Because this takes place in Kalos, we know that there was a war thousands of years ago that killed a lot of people and a lot of Pokemon and probably destroyed a lot of homes, meaning we're most likely going to be redeveloping Lumio City after that war. And if that's the case, it's very possible that we may not have much of a story to talk about. Don't get me wrong, I like the idea of building up Lumio City and chasing out all these different angry Pokemon from different districts within the city. However, I want some real plot too. I want to learn the history behind the war, what caused it, what happened, and when did it stop. I want to know what happened with AZ. What kind of king was he? Why has he been around for 3,000 years? How did he possibly survive that long? I want to know more about his relationship with his best friend, Floette. And then, of course, as the title of the game, I want to know more about Zygarde. That is one of the most mysterious and random Pokemon that we know absolutely nothing about. I don't want this to become a throwaway story just because it takes place in the past. Give us some actual story and let us learn. Now, of course, I could be absolutely wrong on this, and they may absolutely be cooking for Pokemon Legends ZA. However, based on what we got with Arceus, I'm a little nervous. Can you blame me? I hope I'm wrong, but I've ranted about this one topic for like 7 minutes and I'm not done yet, so let's get a move on here. The next thing that really concerns me is the lack of a lot of mechanics solely because it's going to be a Legends title. In the previous game, because there was no online feature, there was a lot of mechanics that just did not exist. There's no abilities, no held items, and no form of Pokemon Camp or Pokemon-Amie. Now, of course, that's not the worst thing in the world, specifically because there's a lot of things that do make up for it in that game. However, I don't really feel like in Pokemon Legends ZA, there's a reason for those things to be lacking. Playing through it again recently, I had almost forgotten that power is the primary factor in these games. Like, I had straight up forgotten that these Pokemon hit hard as hell in this game, dude. The only strategy present in these games is type advantages and strong and agile style changes. Besides that, your primary strategy is just hit as hard as you possibly can, like we're back in Generation 1. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and say that that's a completely bad thing. I don't mind it that much to the point where I hate it or anything like that. Clearly, I had a great time with Legends Arceus gameplay. However, I just personally don't see a reason as to why most of this stuff can't be in the game. They did make it so that we could eventually obtain our Pokemon from Hisui in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and in those games, they already have abilities and stuff like that. So why is it that we can't set them up the way that we want to set them up in Pokemon Legends beforehand? It's weird that if I catch a Zorua in Pokemon Legends Arceus and then I transfer it to Scarlet and Violet only to find out that its ability sucks, well then, what was the point of even transferring that one? I could have grabbed a better one ages ago. Now, this probably does sound a little bit nitpicky because in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, as a late generational game, obviously you can modify abilities and stats as much as you want if you put in the work for it. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of steps that we can skip if we just go back to step 1 and allow it to happen the way it should happen anyway. I'm just saying, just because it's going to be a Legends game, that doesn't mean that I don't want abilities on my Pokemon. It doesn't mean that I don't want my Pokemon to hold items. And I want to be able to play and pet my Pokemon just like I could in the original 6th gen. Come on, yo. The next concern I have is that the side quests that are most likely going to be available, I don't want them to be lacking. Now, maybe this is just a me thing because this is my 3rd playthrough of Pokemon Legends Arceus. However, I've come to understand that a lot of the side quests in that game are kind of lacking. The rewards that we would get would be like a couple of candies or maybe some item that I could use in battle one time and stuff like that, which, in all honesty, doesn't really give me that much incentive to do these side quests. They've made it very clear that everything that you'll ever need for your team is going to be available in the overworld while you're exploring. And getting crafting materials and stuff like that is really nice, but again, a majority of that you can find in the overworld in Legends Arceus. For this next game, I just want side quests that actually do make it more worth it to go out of my way to complete. This also potentially stems from the fact that I have been playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth recently, a massive open world game with hundreds of side quests. And what I've come to understand is, those side quests make it super worth going out of the way for. Each side quest has its own story going on. It tells a lot about some of the characters, maybe in the main story that we didn't know about. And you can get very specific crafting materials and rewards that lead you to other secret parts of that world that make it worth going out of your way for. I want more just like that. I want these other characters in Lumio City to be able to tell their own individual stories. I want to go to a cave and fight a specific Pokemon that's been causing trouble, and maybe it does that multiple times. Hell, throw in some mini games that are fun to play, and the more you do these side quests, the harder these mini games get. I'm just saying, like 5 rare candies and like 10 great or ultra balls are not really worth it, because I could build that up in like less than 5 minutes on my own anyway. The variety in missions in Pokemon Legends Arceus weren't terrible, by the way. I just feel like they could do more and they could be a little more rewarding. I'm also making it very clear that I want more side quests in more Pokemon games, not just Legends games, by the way. JRPGs and side quests go hand in hand for very good reason, and I would love for Pokemon to actually double down on that. In Legends ZA, I just want them to give us good side quests with actual mini stories that give good rewards that make it worth going out of the way for. Simple as that. Moving on here, another possibility that's just a little concerning is the fact that there may not be any kind of online. And in all honesty, I can't even really get mad at this one, because in Pokemon Legends Arceus, it was kind of justified. In their eyes, we had literally just received the remakes, both games with online capabilities, right beforehand. Why would they need to add that to a brand new game and most likely kill off any reason to go back to the remakes that soon? They wouldn't shoot themselves in the foot like that. On top of this, it probably would have been hella unbalanced considering the fact that we don't have held items or abilities, and the strong and agile style wasn't really made for competitive aspects at all. However, therein lies the problem. Once you were done with Pokemon Legends Arceus, there was almost no reason to ever go back to that game. Even if you're a completionist, you could finish that bad boy within like under a week and you would have nothing to do afterwards. I don't want the same fate for Pokemon Legends ZA. I'm going under the assumption that that's going to be our primary game for 2025. So if that's the case, I would really like it if I had a reason to come back after the main story was finished. I will say though, if you guys want to go ahead and give us back those items that make it so that we don't have to trade with people, I would not be upset about that. I'm just saying. But some battling and some mini games that we could do online with friends, I think that would give the game a little bit more longevity, don't you think? I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't need to have this, but it would definitely not hurt to have something like that, especially since it's going to be our primary game. But that's neither here nor there. Either you want it or you don't really care at all. And naturally, of course, just like literally any other Pokemon fan, the one thing that I'm concerned about is that when they say that we're getting this game in 2025, they potentially meant early 2025. And if you know Pokemon, you agree that that is simply still way too early for them to release a game. After the barely passable state that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was in, there is absolutely no way we can go through something like that again. If you guys are going to set a game up for 2025, make it as late as humanly possible. Make it for the holiday season of 2025. That way we know at the very least we'd be getting something decent in terms of quality. Pokemon Legends, even stylized, still looks kinda ugly. If we're going to be rebuilding Lumio City, I want this game to look and feel as good as possible. I want to go to the random roof of a 10-story building and be able to see all of the beautiful lights at night, because Lumio City can be so pretty at the right angles, man. After that announcement, I'm sure you can tell that we've made it more than clear that we are absolutely willing to wait for whatever you're cooking with Pokemon Legends ZA. Especially if you're putting it on brand new Nintendo hardware with more capabilities than that of the Nintendo Switch. Me personally, if I'm making a brand new console with crazy specs, I would want my developers to make stuff that would be able to showcase that. With the numbers that Pokemon always brings in, it is absolutely a console seller, and this next one absolutely needs to be shiny. As shiny as possible. All of us are worn thin from these last couple of years of just bombardment with new Pokemon games. Take your time, cook, and give us one of the most beautiful and most fun experiences that we've ever had with Pokemon. Because I know that you guys can do this. You just need to simply do it. Now, like I said earlier in the video, a lot of these concerns stem from Pokemon Legends Arceus. However, I kinda have to give Legends Arceus a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Again, pretty much all the signs point to Pokemon Legends Arceus not really being meant to exist in the first place. That game was clearly meant to be our original remakes, but ended up transforming into something else entirely because they realized they could not do what they wanted to do with remakes in this style. That in turn called for a lot of scrapped ideas and cut corners to get that game out at a reasonable time. Hell, that game releasing so close to the remakes tells you everything that we need to know. That game was not expected to sell as well as it did. But we made it very clear that all of the ideas presented in Pokemon Legends Arceus, while they could use some work, were definitely phenomenal concepts that we would love to see more of, which is why Pokemon Legends ZA as a concept exists at all. So, for Legends ZA, all I'm asking is that they prove that they've learned and expanded upon all of the concepts from Pokemon Legends Arceus, and that they give it the time to cook so that they can make something truly spectacular to put Pokemon back on the right track again. There's no doubt in my mind that there was a couple of talks about quality control after Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was released. That very vague release date for Pokemon Legends ZA tells us pretty much everything we need to know. I just hope that they take as much time as they possibly need for this one. I'm just gonna go ahead, apologize, and just hope that they do it, because at this point, I feel like a broken record. I can only hope that whatever they give us is really fun, but hey, that's just me. So that just about does it for this video. I'm gonna go ahead and apologize because I'm gonna go on a little bit of a ramble here, but in the midst of this previous week, you know, I was really trying to finish up Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because, you know, that game is probably my game of the year. I was really excited for that, but on top of that, I got that new, you know, we all got the news that Akira Toriyama passed away, and anybody that knows me knows that Dragon Ball has been my entire life. It means so much to me, and that series is so incredibly important to me. And, you know, Akira Toriyama has changed everything. He's changed everybody's lives with Dragon Ball and that series and all of his works. Everything that he's done. Dragon Ball, Dragon Quest, Dr. Slump, a rail inspired Mario. I don't know if you guys knew that. And it's just so important that people know that without Akira Toriyama, without his influence, we would not be here talking about this today. Pokemon would barely be a thing. It would not have succeeded as well as it did if not for Dragon Quest, if not for the influence of Akira Toriyama on JRPGs, because JRPGs would not be a huge thing in Japan, out here, none of that. And I just really want to take a moment to acknowledge that, because Pokemon as a franchise, Final Fantasy as a franchise, both wouldn't exist without Dragon Ball, and without Akira Toriyama specifically, and I appreciate that so much because I love these series, and they wouldn't be they wouldn't be here without him. So I just wanted to say a quick thank you to him and a good rest in peace. Okay, and I was thinking about doing a video on this on my other channel because obviously, you know, this is Pokemon oriented, so I wanted to talk more about this on a different, you know, video eventually, just to, you know, showcase my appreciation for everything Akira Toriyama has done for me growing up, because he meant a lot to me. That really got to me. Anybody that saw me on Twitter, you know. So, but anyway, that wraps it up for this one. Kind of going out on a low note here. I'm really sorry about that. I just really felt the need to talk about that. But either way, what are you guys thinking down in the comment section below. Are you scared like me for Pokemon Legends EA? Do you think that there's a lot of concepts in Legends that just didn't work and you don't want to see them passed over to Pokemon Legends EA? Or do you think that I could be completely wrong? They know, they've learned, they just didn't have the experience and tools that they needed for Arceus, and they could do a lot better in Legends EA, and I'm panicking for absolutely no reason. Tell me everything that you guys are thinking in the comment section below, because you know for a fact that I'm always going to be down there with you guys. But with that, it does appear to be skedaddle o'clock, so I would like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this here. And with that, I'm gone. So thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in my next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!